Chapter 5, Closure. 5 years ago, Irvin stopped by Skylar's dorm after a long day of exhaustion. Skylar opened the door and met his gaze.
Sky, can I have some of your time?
Skylar looked pissed, but she stepped aside and let Irvin in.
Remember the filming school I told you about?
Why didn't you answer my calls? Skylar ignored his question as she followed behind him. Irvin turned around in confusion. He quickly grabbed his phone in his pocket.
Did you call?
He tried to turn on his phone, but the battery was out. Realizing that, he cursed himself inside for not charging his phone.
Phone is dead.
His tiring eyes gazed at Skylar, knowing she would make a fuss. I see. Skylar nodded, not happy at all. Maybe you were too busy hanging out with Janet?
Janet? Her again?
Irvin sighed in frustration.
I told you, Sky. I don't talk to her. I don't even know her.
Skylar looked away. Well, she seems to know you pretty well, she said in a sarcastic tone. Irvin ran a hand through his hair. He knew Skylar was referring to the rumors that had been going around about him and Janet. He had tried to explain to Skylar that they were just classmates from the same class, but she didn't seem to believe him.
Sky, please. I'm tired. Can we talk about this later?
Irvin pleaded, hoping to avoid another argument. No! We need to talk about this now. I can't keep ignoring the rumors and pretending like everything is fine between us, Skylar replied, her voice shaking with anger and hurt.
Listen, I know things have been rough between us lately, but I promise you, there is nothing going on between me and Janet. She's nothing. I only have eyes for you, Sky, he said
sincerely, taking her hand in his. Skylar's eyes narrowed as she yanked her hand away from Irvin's grasp. She grabbed her phone and thrust it in his face. Then explain to me what you and Janet were doing here, she demanded angrily. Irvin's eyes widened as he took in the picture on the screen. It was the school cover page, and it showed him and Janet together. It stated on the top, Best Couple of the Year. He was so shocked that he took the phone out of Skylar's hand to have a better look.
Sky, I have no idea what this is,
he said, his confusion evident in his voice. Really? Because I'm pretty sure that's you and Janet on the school front page, Skylar said, her voice dripping with sarcasm.
This is a misunderstanding, Sky. I don't even remember this. I'm pretty sure they took the picture without my consent,
Irvin explained, feeling frustrated and guilty at the same time. That's all you could give me? You expect me to believe that? Just look at Janet in the picture. She was all over you.
Sky, I didn't come here to talk about Janet,
Irvin said through clenched teeth. Skylar looked mad. So you would only come to me whenever you need me? Was that why you didn't charge your phone?
No, Sky, I also have a lot going on right now.
Skylar looked at him, tears in her eyes. I don't know if I can believe you anymore, Irvin. Irvin's heart broke at her words. He held her hands and shook his head in desperation.
No. Please believe me, Sky. First thing in the morning, I will tell them to take this off the school page. I will tell everyone that this is not true.
Skylar looked at him, her heart torn between love and anger. You always say that this is not true. Everybody on this campus ships you with Janet, Irvin. It got to this point and you did nothing about it. I always feel foolish trying to correct misunderstandings. They all looked at me like I was the other person trying to yank you away from her. Irvin took a deep breath, looking at the girl he loved in front of him. He gobbled his frustration inside.
I'm sorry, Sky. I will fix this. And I swear to you, Janet means nothing to me. I don't have time to care about what the campus thinks of me. And you shouldn't either. Just know that as long as we know we love each other, it's enough.
Then what about me? Put yourself in my shoes, Skylar yelled, her voice breaking. Irvin was also at the breaking point.
I don't need to, Sky. I trust you. You should trust me too.
I don't trust you anymore, Irvin, Skylar screamed, tears streaming down her face. I can't take this anymore. Actions are better than words. You should leave if you cannot give me what I want. Go and have this little fantasy love with your Janet. Nobody would ask for me because they don't even know that you and I have a thing." Irvin's heart shattered as he watched Skylar's outburst. He pulled her into a tight hug, understanding that no words could repair the harm that had been done. All he could do was hold her and promise to be better. He whispered in her ear,
I'm sorry. I promise to make it up to you, Sky. Please.
Skylar buried her face in his chest, tears streaming down her face. She wanted to believe him, to trust in their love once more. But the doubt still lingered, and she hated it. I'm tired, Irvin. I'm so tired. Irvin couldn't agree more, as he was also very tired. He tightened his embrace, overwhelmed by a deep feeling of remorse. It appeared as though their surroundings were sapping their strength. He understood the need to take action to correct things and earn back her trust. However, in that instant, all he could manage was to express his regret and keep her in his arms, wishing she would eventually forgive him. As the days passed by, Skylar and Irvin's relationship took a turn for the worse. Their busy schedules kept them apart, and when they did see each other, all they did was argue. Skylar's trust issues were driving her crazy, and Irvin's intentions for making things right seemed to have no regard for her feelings. Sadly, Irvin eventually had to leave Skylar's life, but sometimes distance can make the heart grow fonder, right? Despite everything, Irvin is not giving up hope. He's determined to turn his life around and make things right with Skylar. Irvin got into film school, but he never stops asking about Skylar's whereabouts. A year later, he heard Skylar had graduated with her creating writing degree and suddenly disappeared. He desperately looked for her, but he was still unable to locate her. Irvin's heart was heavy with worry and frustration as he searched high and low for any clues about Skylar's whereabouts. Despite his best efforts, she remained nowhere to be found, leaving him with a sense of emptiness and longing. He then pursued a successful career in the film industry, but he never forgot about Skylar. He always wondered what could have been if he hadn't let her slip away. Years went by, and Irvin had almost given up hope of ever seeing Skylar again. Then, out of the blue, the name Lara D. Katz entered the picture, and that's how their paths converged once more. Back in the present, Skylar wiped away her tears and sniffed. I must have been the most paranoid, annoying girlfriend you ever dated, she said, her voice cracking with emotion. Irvin smiled and shook his head.
Not exactly. You were the only one I dated, so there's no one to compare to.
He reassured her, reaching out to gently wipe away a tear from her cheek. Skylar managed a small laugh, feeling a surge of happiness at his words. As they sat together in the quiet of Irvin's living room, Skylar gazed into his warm brown eyes and asked softly, Have you ever regretted dating me? Irvin's expression softened, and he took her hands in his.
Never, Skylar. Not for a single moment,
he said earnestly.
You were the best thing that ever happened to me.
Skylar felt her heart swell with relief and love. She tilted her face to the side, trying to hide her shyness. As Irvin looked at Skylar, his heart ached for her. He marveled at her unwavering innocence and forgiving nature despite the pain he had inflicted upon her. She had cast aside all resentment, blaming herself for their shattered relationship. Irvin was consumed by self-doubt and questioned his own worthiness. Did he truly deserve the love and devotion of such an extraordinary soul? Was he capable of reciprocating the boundless joy and happiness that Skylar brought into his life? These doubts gnawed at Irvin's conscience, leaving him torn between his desire for her and his sense of inadequacy. Irvin. Skylar's voice broke through his reverie. Her eyes held a mixture of concern and gentle inquiry. Startled, Irvin looked up at her, his thoughts scattered. There was a long pause, a heavy silence hanging in the air. Then, Skylar reached out and gently squeezed Irvin's hand. You're not fully telling me why you left, she said, her voice soft yet firm. Irvin's face registered surprise, a flicker of guilt crossing his features. Skylar gazed into his eyes, a knowing smile playing upon her lips. "The Irvin I know always hides his pain," she said, her words carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken truths. Irvin felt a surge of emotions as Skylar's words pierced through his defenses. Her touch and her stare made him feel all sorts of different things at once, and he didn't know what to do about it. He'd been carrying his past around like a heavyweight, but Skylar's unwavering support and understanding made him feel like he might be able to let those walls down. His eyes were filled with regret and longing as he took a deep breath and looked directly at Skylar.
My sister, Sophia, was diagnosed with cancer.
He confessed in a faint voice. The news of Irvin's older sister took Skylar aback, and her eyes widened in shock. "What? Is she—"
She's okay. She's fine,
Irvin assured her, and Skylar let out a relieved sigh.
It was not a high risk yet,
Irvin continued.
But it required surgery. We didn't have the money. I saved a little for film school. But it wasn't enough. The best decision was for me to drop out of school and work.
Skylar put her hand up to her mouth in surprise as she continued to listen.
That made Sophia angry. We had a huge fight one night. She told me that she would rather die if I gave up my future.
Tears dropped from Skylar's eyes as she empathized with Irvin's pain and struggles.
I didn't know what to do. I couldn't lose her.
Irvin shared, his voice trembling with emotion.
So I worked as much as I could while still maintaining my schooling. Then, out of all days, our biological father stood before our doorstep. He came to claim us as his children.
Skylar could hear the anger in Irvin's voice as he continued.
How dare he? He never loved us. That's why he left with the other woman 10 years ago. Even when Mom died, he never showed up. I wanted to prove to Sophia that I could take care of her without him. I came to realize that being stubborn won't help. I can't lose Sophia. That man said he would take care of the medical bills if we just went with him. So we did.
Skylar wiped her tears and placed her hand on Irvin's shoulder. So, that was why you left. There was so much going on, and I had no idea about it. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, feeling a sense of urgency to support Irvin and Sophia in any way she could.
I didn't want to trouble you,
said Irvin, his eyes filled with emotions.
I didn't want to burden you with my problems. Besides, we were not on good terms at the time, and I was helpless. I was failing you and my sister. But more importantly, I just don't want you to worry.
Skylar's heart ached as she watched Irvin beat himself up. Stop it, Irvin, she said firmly. You didn't fail. You saved both me and your sister. You did what you thought was best, and that's all anyone can do in a situation like that. She looked down, feeling ashamed. While you were going through all that pain and suffering, I was being childish and stubborn. What kind of girlfriend am I? Irvin looked up at her, surprise etched on his face. He shook his head, not agreeing.
You were the girlfriend who loved me very much,
he said, his words assuring. Skylar's heart sank as she looked at him, trying to wipe away a tear. Irvin had just used the word loved, and it felt like a stab in the heart. She couldn't help but wonder, was she supposed to be happy hearing that? It was a cruel reminder that their relationship was now a thing of the past, and it was up to her to try and get things back to the way they used to be. The challenge ahead of her seemed daunting, but she was determined to try her best and win back the love of her life. A sleek van was parked directly in front of the building, and as Stephen emerged, he gallantly escorted a stylishly dressed woman accompanied by her entourage of managers and guards. Upon reaching the van, Stephen smoothly interjected,
Allow me, Ms. Amari.
Before opening the door for the woman to step inside.
Thank you,
She acknowledged with a smile. With a graceful wave, Stephen bid them farewell and turned his attention to his ringing phone.
Nick, about time you call.
Stephen said, clearly agitated.
Why didn't you tell us about the actress change?
Sorry, it was so last minute. I forgot to inform you and Director Irvin. But how did the meeting go? Did you see her? Isn't she stunning? Did Irvin approve?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
I confirmed the contract. Not Irvin. He missed the meeting.
He said, frustrated.
What? But I saw him with you.
Yeah, something came up and he couldn't make it. Nah, he won't go back on it. We secured Janet Amari, the popular actress, for our antagonist role. How amazing is that?
As they spoke, the sleek van window cracked open, and Janet Amari's glamorous face appeared. She looked at Stephen, who was celebrating on the phone. With a smirk, the window closed, and the van drove off. The next day. After the meeting with the film crews, everyone left to work, while Janet stayed behind alone in the meeting room with Irvin. Irvin paid no attention to her as he scattered through his documents.
You've had me on edge for days, Irvin,
Janet confessed as she approached him.
I couldn't help but fear you might reject me and find someone else to fill the role.
Irvin lifted his eyes off his documents, glanced at her, and then returned to his paper.
Why would you say that? Business is business. There is nothing to worry about.
Janet's lips quivered as she bit them, a wave of embarrassment washing over her at Irvin's lack of interest.
I know, but I just wanted to ensure we're both on the same page. I don't want any awkwardness on set, especially since we have a history.
Irvin let out a sigh and put down his pen.
Look, Janet, I don't have a history with you. Let's focus on making this film the best it can be, okay?
Janet's face betrayed a sense of relief as she nodded in response. But beneath the facade, she had a different plan brewing in her mind. 5 years back. Irvin walked into the lobby on campus and spotted the group of students who majored in entertaining design. They were all sitting together at a table with Janet, the school news and bulletin board manager, among them. Logan, one of the students in the group, saw Irvin and waved at him excitedly.
Hey, look who's here! Our very own star of romance.
He exclaimed, causing everyone to turn around and look at Irvin. But as Irvin approached them, he didn't seem too happy. His eyes were tired and his face was pale, which left everyone in the group concerned. Janet quickly stood up and walked over to Irvin.
Irvin, are you okay? You don't look so good.
But instead of answering her, Irvin called out to Liam, the leader of the major, who also stood up.
What's up, dude?
Irvin's tone was stern as he spoke.
Please remove the picture of the school page,
He said, leaving everyone in the group confused.
School page?
Janet asked, her face suddenly changing.
I don't mind my picture being used, but spreading false information is not acceptable. I suggest you refrain from such actions.
The picture of you and Janet?
Asked Liam.
All of us thought the two of you.
Well, it's not true.
He said quickly and firmly.
Just because one of you took our picture together doesn't mean that we're dating. I had no idea about this. The next thing I knew, it was already plastered on the school's front page. Do you all think this is a joke? I have a girlfriend.
The shock on everyone's faces deepened as they processed Irvin's words. How could they have been so wrong? Liam turned to Janet, hoping to hear her side of the story. But Janet was silent, looking down and avoiding everyone's gaze. Irvin, confused as to why Janet was playing along with all of this, turned his full attention to her.
Janet, look at me,
he said, demanding. Janet slowly raised her head and met Irvin's eyes.
What is going on? What exactly are we?
The tension in the room was palpable as everyone tried to make sense of what had just happened. Janet felt a mix of emotions swirling inside her as Irvin's piercing gaze locked onto her. She always had harbored a secret crush on Irvin. She admired him from afar, watching him go about his day with a mixture of envy and longing. She often imagined what it would be like to have him as her boyfriend, to be the one he smiled at and held hands with. Her hopes were dashed by a girl named Skylar, who was his girlfriend at the time. Janet then intentionally propagated rumors about a romantic relationship between Irvin and herself. She did this by behaving in a manner that suggested they were together and encouraged others to believe the rumors. However, it appears that she didn't plan ahead for the possibility of actually being in a situation where the rumors would come up. Now, she knew she had to explain herself, but the words seemed to elude her in that tense moment. Taking a deep breath, she finally found her voice.
Irvin, I had nothing to do with that post. I swear, it must have been a misunderstanding or a prank gone wrong.
With that last breath, Janet turned to Liam and the others.
Right, guys?
The group of students exchanged glances, still processing the unexpected turn of events. Logan spoke up, breaking the awkward silence.
But Janet, you're the one who told us.
You guys need to stop with these assumptions.
Janet interjected, her laughter a shield of defiance.
Irvin and I, there's absolutely nothing there. I can't speak for him, but I wouldn't even like him if you asked me.
Janet's heart raced as she tried to maintain her facade of indifference, but inside, she was panicking. She couldn't believe she blurted out an obvious lie. Everyone stared in awe at her, and she was stuck between awkwardness and embarrassment. Back to the present, Janet's memory took her back to the time when Irvin had made it clear to everyone on campus about the rumors of them dating. She felt a surge of determination within her as she recalled how Irvin had underestimated her. Why did he underestimate her? It was because he never saw her. She was invisible to him like she didn't even exist, and she had Skylar to thank for that. But now, walking out of the meeting, Janet couldn't help but smirk. She knew she had to prove Irvin wrong and show him what she was made of, and no one was there to stand in their way.
Just wait and see, Irvin. One day you'll be thinking of me. And only me.